Hi, this is Sweet June. How's everybody doing this evening? Just getting off work, coming from the gym. Now I'm ready to eat my salad and chill out, veg out for tonight. Um, Hope everybody's having a blessed evening, a blessed Tuesday. Um, what I want to talk about, I've been marinating on this for a little while now. I'm just now doing a video on it. Been marinating on it, and like I said in one of my other videos, they got people on here um, that they have Sin, and they have some other people. Um, Franny, I can't think of her last name. Um, she she's got a real, uh, a good channel on here that she gets a lot of hits and everything. And she did what white girls say to black girls type thing, and that thing went viral. It just went viral. And so now she's doing, I guess now she's working for MTV, and she's doing um, a thing on MTV. Actually, I haven't seen her show on MTV. I haven't caught her show on TV, but I guess she's talking about a lot of racism, and she's discussing a lot of race like topics referring to racism. Um, and there's a lady on here. There's a few of them on here that um, their um, their whole mo is like Sin, um, and they talk about racism a lot and everything like that. And and there's other channels like sometimes I discuss it. A lot of other black people on here um, that have YouTube channels, they discuss it. And one of the things that and I did a video and I talked about this before, that they got a couple guys that come on here. One of them, his name is Andy something, and they kind of react a lot of those videos and everything. But the thing that really kind of bothers me about um those people that kind of react those videos, um not saying that everything that Sin is talking about is right. I don't agree with everything that she says, but um, she is speaking a lot of truth on a lot of things referring to racism. And I did a video uh, before when I talked about um, black people being accused of being racist every time we speak out about racism. And it's just that when these guys come on here and they kind of react those videos, they're always saying the different things that they're talking about. Um, they just flat out call them a racist. Like they may be speaking facts on a lot of the things that they're talking about. I think what it is their delivery. I think that they have an issue with their delivery. I think their delivery in a lot of cases is not good, because when they're discussing racism, um, like when a black person is discussing racism, you may very well be stating the facts. But if you're coming across as you're being stereotypical and you're saying that all white people are this way, or you're coming across as if you are attacking white people, so to speak, you're coming across as if you're attacking white people, um, then white people are going to look at that and they are going to get on a defense. I think what's happening is that their delivery, I think it's like Sin and people like her. I think a lot of what they are saying is true, but I think a lot of the problem is the delivery. And sometimes when a white person may look at those videos, they may look at it as they're saying that all white people are like this, or they're feeling like they're being like all white people are being attacked, you know. And so even though they're stating a lot of facts, they're gonna overlook it because they're looking at their delivery, how they're delivering the message, um, or they are looking at, they feel like, well, she's saying that all white people are like this or whatever like that, and if they feel like they're being attacked, then they're gonna take the whole overall message as being racist. But the problem is that um, it just seems to me that anytime a black person speaks out about racism, no matter how the delivery is or how you may state it, or there's times when I've spoke out about racism and I got accused of being racist, and I didn't come off. My delivery was just fine. I was just basically just stating the facts. That's what I have a problem with. I have a problem with um, black people always consistently being accused of being racist because we're simply speaking out about racism. If we're speaking out about racism and we are stating the facts about something that's very real to us, and something that we are truly experiencing, and it's very real to us, and it affects us on all levels. It affects us emotionally, psychologically. It affects us on all levels, and it's very real to us. And black people, um, we really do experience um, a lot of this racism as a whole. And the system, there's a lot of systematic racism that a lot of people may be oblivious to. If you're not a person of color, then you may be oblivious to the systematic racism that is in place because you're not a black person, you're not African American. So, and that systematic racism is not affecting you. And if it's not affecting you, then you may be totally oblivious to it, you know? But I say just because you're not experiencing something doesn't mean that it's not happening. Does not mean that it doesn't occur. Doesn't mean that the person's feelings about what's going on is not valid. And I like to liken it to a parable too. It's like a woman that has been raped and she speaks out. You know how a lot of times women get accused of being feminist. Sometimes women get accused of being feminist. Like, let's say a woman's been raped and she speaks out against, she goes on a crusade and she speaks out against rape, against men raping women. She's not saying that all men are rapists, but she's speaking out. She goes on a crusade and she speaks out against rape against women. Does that make her a feminist because she's speaking out against something that's very real to her, something that she's really experienced, that affected her emotionally, physically, and this affected every core of her being? That she's speaking out against an experience she experienced that's very real to her. It's very valid to her and it's very real to her, and she's passionate about it. That doesn't make her a feminist because she speaks out against it. It just means that this is something that she went through. This is something that she experienced. And this is something that is very real to her. And so I just have an issue. I have an issue with, um, I have a little bit of an issue with these people that talk about some of the people that discuss racism on here. And they say that they just come out and just say that they're blatantly being racist and refuse to hear anything that are valid points, true points about racism. And my thought is that black people are not, when black people speak out against racism, we're not being racist. And I just want white people to get this out of their heads. When black people are speaking out against racism, this is something that's very real to us. It's something that is real to us. We experience it. It affects us emotionally. It affects us psychologically. It affects us on so many different levels. And it could be the subtle racism all the way up to the blatant racism that can affect you. Because when you're a human being, you expect to be treated with respect. All human beings deserve to be treated with respect. And all human beings deserve to be treated the same. You know, nobody deserves to be treated differently because of the color of their skin. All people, regardless of race, deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And that's only, black people are human beings. We are human beings. And we expect to be treated with some dignity and respect. Especially particularly if you're law abiding, if you're a law abiding citizen and you try to be the best person that you can be. You want to be treated with dignity and you want to be treated with respect. All people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of race. All human beings. And when you're not treated with dignity and you're not treated with respect, then you have the right to speak out about it. You have the right to voice your concerns about not being treated with dignity and not being treated with respect. And it doesn't make black people racist because we speak out against something that is real to us, something that we are truly experiencing. You're never going to see it from our point of view because you're not black. And they say they'll never judge a man unless you walked a mile in his shoes. That saying, I know everybody has heard that saying. Never judge a man unless you have walked a mile in his shoes. And if you're not a person of color, it is very difficult to understand what it is like as a person of color going through this life, going through this world. It's going to be very difficult for you to understand because you are not a person of color. You simply do not understand. Now, I commend some of the white people out there. There are white people out there that really try really hard to understand. Those white people, I think, they don't understand. But I think what happens is those white people can sympathize with us. They hear our concerns. They acknowledge the fact that there is a problem with race. I think what it is that they acknowledge that there is a problem with race. And they sympathize with us. And they acknowledge the fact that there is a problem. And they realize that it's not right. You know? But at the end of the day, they still don't fully understand. But I admire the fact that they acknowledge that there is a problem. And what bothers me more than anything is that when some white people don't acknowledge the fact that we do have a race problem. We do in fact have a race problem in this country. And they refuse to acknowledge the fact. And anytime a black person has anything to say about that, they label them a racist. You know, they go into denial and go as far as label black people that speak out against it as racist. Black people are not racist for speaking out against racism, for trying to educate. We are trying to educate you and let you know what our feelings are, how it makes us feel, what we are experiencing. We're trying to educate you. Every person in this country need to be educated about racism because, like I said in some of my other videos, ultimately racism is going to affect us all because it's like a cancer. It's like a horrible cancer that's growing in the United States. It's like a horrible cancer, and eventually it's going to spread to everyone, and it's going to wind up affecting everyone. So everybody needs to be educated about racism. It's not just racism against black people, but there's other people of color, other ethnicities that are being discriminated against, that have to experience racism. It's just like Arabs, Muslims, because certain members of their race are terrorists, then people automatically assume all of them are like that. And so they have to go through that. So it's a form of discrimination, a form of stereotyping, and it's horrible. Everybody wants to be treated with dignity, and everybody wants to be treated with respect, regardless of race. You don't want to be treated any differently because uh, of who you are or what you look like, or everybody wants to be treated with dignity, and everybody wants to be treated with respect. And my thought is I just think that sometimes our intelligence gets insulted. Our intelligence gets insulted a lot of times uh, because we know everybody know. I mean, if you just a human being, and you can tell when someone is not treated, like you're not being treated fairly, or you're not being treated with respect, or you're being stereotyped, or whatever the situation is. Even as a human being, you know when you're not being treated right. You know when you're not being treated fairly. You know when you're being disrespected. As a human being, you know that. And I think a lot of times our intelligence gets insulted because people don't think that we should have sense enough to know when we're not being treated with respect. We're not being treated with dignity. Okay, when our rights is being violated, people think that we don't have sense enough to know when our rights is being violated, when we're not being treated with respect, when we're not being treated with dignity because of the color of our skin. We don't insult our intelligence. We got sense enough to know when we're not being treated right, or as human beings, that the basic rights that all human beings have. We all have the right to be treated with dignity. We all have the right to be treated with respect, regardless of race. I know when I'm not being treated right. I've been in this world for 49 years. I know when I'm not being treated with respect. I know that I know when I'm not being treated with dignity. Now I can pick up on the most subtle racism. I can pick up on it now. You know, because like I said, there's different levels. There's different levels on it of it. There's the most subtle to the most blatant, and now I can pick up on the most subtle. You know, believe it or not. And it's like, don't insult our intelligence. We know, we have sense enough to know and understand about this system, that we know that the system is broken, and we know that the system has a lot of racism in it. We know that. We know that the system is not um, on a level playing field. We know that it's not a level playing field. We know that the system is broken. Don't insult our intelligence. And a lot of times, our intelligence is always insulted because people think that we don't have sense enough to know that when we're not being treated with dignity, when we're not being treated with respect, That we don't realize that we are going through a lot of systematic racism. Now, I might go ahead and do another video. I might discuss this. I might do a part two to this. I don't know. But that's what I want to say. That's the point that I want to make. That black people are not racist for speaking out against racism. And I'm really, really, I really, really get offended when we get accused of that. Because it's like I don't know if they think that we're supposed to be suffer in silence. We're supposed to be going through this and we're not supposed to talk about it. If somebody beat the crap out of you, wouldn't you want to talk about what you went through? You know, if you went through something, I'm just using that as a parable. I might do a part two on this, so stay tuned. This is Sweet June.